star players not performing, a manager under pressure. Sounds quite familiar in some ways, doesn't it? You mentioned there about the draw in Dublin, a disappointing draw, wasn't it, for Portugal, the first game of this international group, and sort of led to them being in the position last night where that last-minute goal could stop them qualifying for now for the World Cup. Well, the Athletic's Phil Buckingham watched Portugal's game against Ireland, and we're delighted to have him on the show now. So, Phil, welcome to Talk of the Devils.
Good morning, all.
Right. We're going to talk about Bruno Fernandes in a minute and how it's not quite working for him at international level, but sort of this idea then that star players are not quite doing it, because it's not just Bruno and Ronaldo. There's João Cancelo, there's Ruben Diaz, there's Bernardo Silva, there's João Felix. I'm sure I've missed players out. I mean, this Portugal side should be getting to the World Cup with their eyes closed with no issue, shouldn't they?
No, absolutely. And they will be deeply frustrated at the way it's panned out. The Ireland game was all about just avoiding defeat, so they could have won that game and it wouldn't have made any difference to last night's outcome. They just had to keep their fate in their own hands, and the points took them above Serbia. And to go a goal up at home in a must not lose game and then end up losing in injury time is criminal, really. It's a nice story for Mitrovic. He was the one that missed the penalty for Serbia, didn't he, against Scotland? So it's redemption for him. But you know, there'll be severe recriminations in Portugal. I can only imagine the fallout from that, because there's a whole lot of jeopardy in those playoffs. You look at the teams in there and the potential route that they're going to have to take. It's not going to be easy, and absolutely no guarantees that Ronaldo and co will be at the World Cup, that's for sure.
Knowing Ronaldo, though, Phil, he'll have already planned exactly what's going to happen. He'll score the winner in the semi and he'll score the winner in the final and deliver his team to the World Cup. He seems to usually have a say in the narrative when things are really up against it. Although that means he should have scored last night rather than Mitrovic, in fairness, and it didn't work. Let's get into your article then. It's up on The Athletic at the minute. A very, very interesting read, especially for Manchester United fans. You describe Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo as like oil and water. Can you just go into it a bit more for us, please?
Yeah, well, the aim of that piece really was to try and analyse how the two of them played together at Portugal. And the primary conclusion I would draw is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is getting a lot more out of them. And people might roll their eyes at that, but it was like two strangers playing in that Ireland game. And I watched quite a lot of the game last night. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes was a substitute and came on. But they just... I don't watch United as much as you fellas, but I've never seen Bruno Fernandes have such an ineffective game as that one against Ireland. He was passive, he was anonymous, he was sloppy in possession, and he just looked a shadow of the player. And when you dig deeper on his history with Portugal, it's poor for a player of his quality. He was late onto the international scene. I think his debut was at 23, and for all he's a fairly regular starter when games really matter, as like last night, and even in points of games when it really matters, he's the expendable one. He's the one that's often replaced. He's the one that's overlooked, as you saw in the European Championships, and a huge game last night. He's the one that's dropped to the bench. I don't think there's an awful lot of shame in that, because as you just highlighted, the strength and depth of Portugal is enormous, but he is not the player for Portugal as he is for Manchester United. He is not a focal point. And now whether or not you look at Fernando Santos and think he's not getting the best out of a clearly talented footballer, there's a fair argument with that. But just watching that game against Ireland and bits of it last night, he's... at times, he just looked like a little boy lost, and he's not going to come back from the international break with confidence boosted, that's for sure. But I do think it's very difficult in a team spearheaded by Ronaldo, because he's just this tour de force, isn't he? And it becomes Ronaldo's team, and to make yourself known and felt in that team is difficult. And he's obviously done a lot more with the union between Ronaldo and Fernandes this season for United has shown signs of it coming together. But I do think it's very difficult to make yourself known in a team with Ronaldo.
Yeah, Sam C's responded to the article saying, I think this is a Portugal problem rather than a United one. He has 8 assists already this season, and he's still one of the top ranked players in the Premier League and Champions League for chance creation, expected assists, etc., despite maybe not being as brilliant as he has been over the last 18 months or so. Andy, you were nodding though for a lot of that. Are you sort of seeing the same sort of problems for Portugal that are creeping in at United a little bit?
I was nodding because I was out in the Euros seeing that he was expendable. That was the word which was used for the Portuguese national team. My priority is how Bruno Fernandes does for Manchester United. And when he came that first year, he was by a distance the best player, by an absolute mile Manchester United's best player. The first few months, he was so much better than everybody else. And it was needed because United had been so poor. And he's faded a bit, and I look at a player now who, statistics, he had a very bright start to the season, but so did Paul Pogba. That doesn't mean he's Manchester United's best player at the moment just because he's got all those goals and assists. And he's more whiny. He's whinging all the time. He's not as effective as he was. He's been pretty unable to perform against far better players for opponents in Manchester City and Liverpool. And what happened against Aston Villa with the penalty, he's just not playing to the levels that he was at Manchester United, and I'd love him to get back to that level. Remember watching him at Wolves in a game United were lucky to win earlier in the season, and just thinking, stop moaning, just give it a break. And that's just my opinion. And he I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think he brings so much to the team. He makes the passes. A criticism of him is that he loses the ball too much, but he makes the most risky passes. He tries the stuff which, when it does come off, is the best stuff. It's like, wow, how did he do that? And I hope he never changes that, but I also hope that he's just going through a bit of a lower moment. I won't say he's completely out of form, but for almost all the time he's been at Manchester United, you'd be able to say he's the best player at the moment, and you wouldn't be able to say that of him so far this season.
No, actually, he's not scored for 12 matches for Manchester United, which is his longest spell without a goal. But actually, it's his longest spell for about 5.5 years without a goal. It dates back beyond his time at Sporting Lisbon to actually Sampdoria in Italy. So, Laurie, is it too easy to blame this on Ronaldo? Because if you actually look at when he last scored, it was Ronaldo's debut, and he's not scored since.
Yeah, good stats there, Ian, and quite eye-opening, really, because I suppose he's been able to score penalties in quite a few of those sequences, so you'd think it's unusual that United haven't got a penalty for such a long time. Well, they did.
He missed it.
Well, exactly. There we go. So, if he scores that one, then the run isn't as kind of barren as it looks at the moment.
It was fairly early in the run, even though, to be fair, I think it was about game 4 of 12. So, he still would have been, 8 matches. Is that right?
Yeah.
I've just got all my fingers out to add it up. Yeah.
And obviously that would be superficial anyway, really, wouldn't it? Penalties, it's sort of, skirting over the issue where we're talking about fundamental style of play on the pitch and linking up. I mean, I was there in Bergamo for that assist for Ronaldo, which was inspirational, to sort of take a pass from Mason Greenwood and make it into a guaranteed goal by backheeling it to Ronaldo. You could see the understanding that they've got in that moment. I suppose it's just that we're not yet seeing that on a consistent basis, and that seems odd given they are compatriots, and you'd think that understanding would have been developed over time there. But as Phil says, it's actually worse for Portugal.
To be fair to him, he's made at least one assist in every Champions League game so far, and he made 2 against Atalanta at home. I think it's more in the league because he scored that hat-trick against Leeds on the opening day. He's only scored 1 since, but he's still been making assists. That ball he gave to Ronaldo at Tottenham very recently was incredible. It's one of the best goals and setups of the season, but I still maintain my original point that he's not playing as well for Manchester United as he was when he first came.